It's Friday night once again, and to all the people out there fighting the good fight against trickery, here's another random thought about trickery. Because if you're not paying attention, you're probably getting tricked. Or actually, to be more relevant to today's rant, if you're not paying attention, you're probably getting sanctioned. And we're talking about sanctions. You hear about sanctions a lot in the news. A lot. A lot. Sanction this, sanction that, sanction this person, sanction that person, sanction family, sanction dogs, sanction cats. I mean, probably sanction the earth. Or best yet, the ultimate sanction the sun, so that way it doesn't, we just reject the sunlight of the sun, and we'll ask maybe Jupiter for some heat in some other ways, in some other invisible electromagnetic wave. But to talk about all of this, one of the interesting things that I find noteworthy is when the so-called democratic nations do sanctioning. See, sanctioning is basically government intrusion into the marketplace, among other types of government intrusions, but this is the specific one. Because a company can decide to sell to whomever they want, right? In a democratic nation, in the way democratic nations are portrayed, not necessarily with the actual definition of democratic nations. So keep that in mind when I talk about that. But democratic nations being portrayed as the place where individual freedom counts, the sanctioning goes against the whole caboodle, if you will. Because if a company, an individual wants to do business with a foreign government, or a foreign business, they should be able to. Especially if their country is not at war with the other country, right? Because if it turns out that, let's just say, country A, the people agree in general that country B is bad, well, then let us leave that to the individuals to make the decision whether or not to do business with country B. It shouldn't be the government's place to put a blanket sanction, because clearly, if the idea is we as a country agree just by ourselves, we don't like to support country B, you wouldn't have to have laws for that. People will just do what they think is right. Country B is bad, so I'm not going to do business. I'm not going to do anything with them. I'm good. It's like boycotting, right? You can have a company involved in, let's say, discrimination. So what do? People that feel that it's really wrong, they decide to not buy their product. The last time I checked, the government doesn't pass laws for you to not buy their products. It's up to the individual for people to do what they want to do about the situation. So whenever you apply a sanction, it's essentially you're going against that freedom of the individual. Now, I'm sure there are some situations where it may be important, or is important, where the government may want to impose in order for the government to fulfill its foreign policy, it may need to impose certain rules on the individual and limit their freedom. But that's the very point. That's the very hypocrisy about the way people look at democracies, right? Because it's like the government has a certain policy that foreign policy that it wants to follow. The people may not agree with it. So instead of letting the democratic process happen, which is kind of, equal to vote with your pocket, the government says, no, we are just going to force you to not do business with these other people that we have issues with. Now, you may not have issues with them, but it doesn't really matter. You have to support our policy. And to me, that's a big part of going against the freedom of the individual. That's a very, very, very big part. Because what that does is it allows the government to essentially turn its citizens into zombies to support its agenda. And that agenda could be harmful in the long run to the public, but not to the individuals in the government. So sanctions is the very opposite of individual freedom. But yet and still, as we're seeing in current events, sanctions being thrown around left and right. And everybody is happy about it. And then these same people say, well, this shows our unity. I mean, if you point a gun to my head, you'd probably be surprised that I agree with a lot of things that you say. But come on, do I really? No. So anyway, so that's one of the trickeries when it comes to sanctions. Because if the people really, 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 really thought that a foreign nation is really bad, you wouldn't need to sanction. The individuals by their own will just not do business. Government doesn't need to hold their hands, but apparently they do because the people are not in step with what the government is saying. So, gotta be careful when people use the passing of sanctions as proof of unity. That's it for now. It's Friday night. It's not too late. Maybe I'll go out and have some fun. Later.